Grace and peace, everybody. Let me just look at this to make sure everything is good. I know y'all a couple of seconds behind me. Do me a favor, Lynn, just type a 1 in there. Minister Dante, we've been trying to get you back on since this whole debate. Since the whole debate, Teo Ministries, they were on, and I definitely had to get them on because they were live. They saw the debate as it was going down, and names just started popping up in one of their names, and their names popped up a lot from the very beginning, so I had to get them on. But then after that, I got a bunch of questions, a bunch of emails, a bunch of comments. You outside of on the Israelite side, Vocab is the man they like to hate. And I just recently found out, Pastor Johnson, that on the what we would call moderate side of the Messianic side, Minister Dante, Sister Foster is at the top of the list of who the Christians want to hate on. And he didn't prove anything. I wrote some of it down. He didn't answer any of Vocab's questions. He didn't prove the 400 years from the Bible. What was the other way? The 2019, he didn't explain the predictions. And a bunch of, I got a few things written down, but those were the majority of things that were coming in from the haters. So I said, it's going to definitely be interesting because we're going to have you on, and we're going to have you on without Vocab, without anyone else to ask you concerning the debate. And I'm going to ask you, like I asked Teo, like I asked Vocab, who do you think won the debate? How do you think it went? Let me be the first to say that I admit I may not even call it a debate. I was surprised at the whole thing, but I'm going to hear from you. You got the floor, sir. I'm going to mute myself.
All right. Some people have heard my post-debate video already, but I said this too. I wouldn't necessarily call it a debate myself. I was kind of disappointed in what Vocab brought forth. And if you listen to Vocab's words, which I'm going to go over some of those tonight, and then you go back and you fact check Vocab, which a lot of people didn't do clearly. If you go back and fact check Vocab says he felt like he was in a ring by himself. That's because he knocked himself out. And I'm going to show you guys some of the sources that Vocab used. And I always say a lie by omission is still a lie. And I'm going to show you guys a lot of the stuff he intentionally omitted from the debate. But I feel like I won that because Vocab brought the receipts against himself that whole debate.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm trying to look at the comments. But what do you think about the debate in general? Because it started off a little bit slow. Vocab said that you'd never got to the 400 years, and other people hit me with the same thing. They say Dante wasn't in the Bible. Vocab came with the word and all of this other stuff. What do you say to those that would? How would you address that?
Well, let's just talk about the facts of the debate. So Vocab challenged me to this debate, and Vocab, I said specifically, I'll debate Vocab about what I believe about the 400 years.
Yeah, correct.
Vocab wanted to debate me about what Teo Ministries believed about the 400 years and what other people believed. In fact, in your follow-up with Vocab, he admits that he would take pieces from Teo Ministries and fill in the blanks, and take pieces from me and fill in their blanks. So he was trying to group us all together, just like he tried to do in the beginning when he tried to group us with the camps. And this isn't, to me, an honest way to go about it to establish your premise. So when he came out the gate, he wanted to say that I was making false prophecies. Then he immediately switched to, well, Dante endorses false prophets, and Dante shared stuff from Teo Ministries, and Dante shared stuff from Pastor Omar. So this right here is the problem. Vocab says if you share something or you post a link, that's the same as endorsing it. What's interesting about that comment is that his current situation with the other apologists, who I won't name, one set of apologists are saying that the other apologist is a liar and a heretic and these sorts of things. Vocab now has to explain why he has sets of videos promoting both sets. One person is clearly lying. One set of people clearly lying about the other set, because both can't be right. And Vocab has videos with both of these sets of people. And so by Vocab's own logic, if he's promoting these people, that would make Vocab a false teacher or promoting a false teacher. but he doesn't want it to be evenly like that. He doesn't want you guys to judge equally like that because he wants to play the middle. Now, let's move on. Throwing people under the bus. We started there. I'm gonna come to debate. We'll talk about the pre-debate real quick because I want to go under the pre-debate. Vocab claimed that he made the false claim that we would be throwing you guys under the bus. We would use you guys. The Israelites would use you guys, throw you guys under the bus.
Yes, with Muhammad. Yes.
Right. And we've seen in the last 2 weeks that they've thrown you under the bus. They've thrown Brother Muhammad under the bus, and they've thrown Sister Nephi under the bus. The exact same thing that Vocab. Right. So now we're starting to see the true them come out. Now, Vocab tried to intentionally misrepresent what I believe. You guys heard him say he read my book. He said that out of his own mouth. Vocab said that he read the article, The Final Juneteenth. And we're going to get to that because I got some notes right here. And I'm going to touch on both of those because he said he made a few statements that were out of context. Let's see. He said it was a scavenger hunt to find what I thought on the issue. This is his words on your follow-up. He says it was a scavenger hunt to find what I thought on the issue. Now, I'm going to show you why that's not true. It wasn't a scavenger hunt. The 2 pieces of material that he said he used outlined exactly what I believed. And even in one point of the debate, Vocab gave you a list of things that I said that to not expect during 2019, which was the complete opposite of the position he was trying to take. So let's go look at I'm gonna read you guys chapter, just not even the whole chapter, just a part of chapter 8 out of my book.
You can pull it up if you want to put it on screen if you like.
Give me a second here. Give me 1 second here. I thought I had to pull it up to the exact place. Let me find it and then I'll put it up on the screen real quick. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it. I had to re-pull up everything. I'm gonna come back to my book. I gotta find that. But what I will pull up is the Final Juneteenth article. I do have that up on the screen. We can go there if you let me see. You know what? I can't. I'm on my phone, so I'll read it to you guys. Go
ahead.
Now, this is on my website for everybody listening. You guys can go verify this on my website, blackhistoryinthebible.com. So I'll come back to the Black Hebrew Awakening in a second so I can pull that up for you guys. But on the Final Juneteenth, Vocab said he highlighted and bolded all the places he would need to read. So we're going to go here. We'll start at the very top. He claimed that the Final Juneteenth was telling people this was going to be our Final Juneteenth. Vocab kept emphasizing, look at the titles, look at the titles. But there's a reason he didn't emphasize, look at the content. Because Vocab was intentionally trying to mislead people. He wanted people to look at the title, but not look at the content so he could take everything out of context. So, for example, he mentioned that I was giving people false hope. He mentioned that people are getting on the plane to go to Africa because of stuff that I said and stuff that Teo said. And yet Vocab didn't tell you guys that this whole article was about the current happenings to Black people in America at the time. And as he did mention when it was written, this is important, June 19th, 2018. He said on Juneteenth. Now, when he came to the subtitle, he said all descendants of the transatlantic slave trade need to read this. And he used that to point out that this is talking to specific people. Now, anybody that knows what Juneteenth is already knew I was talking to specific people without adding that part right there. I was just adding that part for emphasis. So when you get down in the to the part of the article that says, how did we end up in this situation? Right above that, Vocab read this out of his own mouth during the debate. We don't know the exact date or time. And yet Vocab kept trying to say, I predicted a date and a time. Now, this is out of the article he claims he read. It says right there, bullet pointed, we don't know the exact date or time. Then it says, many of us strongly believe the curse ends in 2019. Strongly believe. I didn't say this is a prediction, this is a prophecy or anything like that. But when he was on your show last time, he stopped right there and said, see, that's a prediction. He said that knowing that wasn't a prediction. And then I said, our people have to awaken in order for the call to work. Why did I say that? Because I had spent the whole rest of the article specifying that the whole 400-year prophecy was about us being able to call out to the Most High to end slavery. But what Vocab Malone did is he tried to portray it as if I was saying that the Most High couldn't hear people's prayers for 400 years. And that's not what I was saying at all. I was specifically talking about his people calling out to end the slavery and oppression going on after 400 years. Now, when you go down just a little bit more, let me see, we'll go down to it touches on the 400 years. Matter of fact, let's touch on that. Vocab asked, why couldn't God hear us for 400 years?
That's
so
right.
I have a full breakdown. How did our people end up in this situation? I give Bible verses, Hosea 5:15, where God says, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. Now, I'm just giving you the Bible verses, but I provide context throughout the article. Now, next, I gave Judges 10:11 through 14. Now, Vocab knows all this if he actually read it like he says. And the Lord said unto the children of Israel, did not I deliver you from the Egyptians, from the Amorites, from the children of Ammon, from the Philistines, the Zidonians also, the Amalekites, the Moabites did oppress you, and ye cried to me, and I delivered you out of their hand. Yet ye have forsaken me and served other gods. Wherefore I will deliver you no more. Go and cry unto the gods which ye have chosen. Let them deliver you in your time of tribulation. And I go on to show other examples to where Israel was disobedient. God would let them go into slavery for a short time, and then they would cry out to him, and then he would bring them out of slavery. Vocab knows this. But as you go on to the end of the article, it says the following, my final thoughts. Now, this is where I was like, when I said Vocab doesn't seem like he knows what I believe. This is from what Vocab was reading. Now, my final thoughts. It says, let's not get too caught up in the 2019 prophecy as far as expecting something immediate to happen. But Vocab tried to portray it as if I was giving people false hope. And I specifically said, let's not get caught up in this as if we're expecting something immediate to happen. My current official position is that the prayer lines open up in 2019 because the curse will end. I'm not predicting a sudden outpouring of the wrath of God or an immediate return of Christ. Don't get your hopes up for that in 2019 and then be disappointed when 2020 arrives. Vocab
did you drop a book on 2019 specifically? Did you write a book specifically on that? I know you got a couple of books out.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna come back. That was what I'm trying to find. Yeah, that was the Black Hebrew Awakening, Final 400 Years of Slaves in America. Now, I'm gonna touch on that too, because Vocab again told you guys to look at the title, but he didn't tell you to look at the content. So now, I said this as well. We do not know the exact month or day when the lines open up again, so it's important that we start praying and keep praying. We do not know how many of us need to awaken before the Most High decides to answer our call. So I'm being very clear here. Like, look, we don't know these factors right here. I'm not saying anything is going to happen, but what we believe is this. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I believe and why I told Vocab I would debate him specifically on my beliefs and nobody else's. I said, we do not know how long it will take to awaken enough people to get the Most High to answer. Maybe one is enough, or maybe we need 1 million. We simply don't know. We do not know how long it will take to receive an answer. And now I refer to the book of Daniel. It took Daniel 21 days to get his answer, and he prayed diligently. It could take 21 seconds, 21 minutes, or 21 months. I was very clear that we shouldn't expect anything to happen. It could take an undisclosed amount of time. Why is that? Because blindness in part happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. I'm fully aware of that. So that means if blindness in part had happened to Israel and there's going to be this awakening, a certain number predetermined by God has to wake up in order for these things to even take place, the judgment and everything else. Vocab says he read this whole article, and yet he didn't present any of that in his presentation. He conveniently left all of that out, tried to tie me in with other people's beliefs, and said I made some kind of false prophecy, got people's hopes up, and was telling people all this stuff was going to happen in 2019.
Do you think Vocab muddied the water by bringing tying Teo ministry into tying the two beliefs in together?
Of course he did.
Y'all basically believe so much of the same thing.
Me and Tail Ministries, we agree on a lot, but we also disagree on a lot. For example, some of the stuff that we iron sharpen behind closed doors, the Book of Revelation, the location of Israel, stuff like that. We don't necessarily agree on every point. So to tie what they say in with what I say is not fair to either one of us, because we don't always agree on every single point of scripture or how we interpret it. And that's what the urban apologists were trying to do, again, was lump us all together, because they don't want to take the time to differentiate between who believes what. Which is why when Vocab said he'll debate me on the 400 years, I said, look, I'll debate you on what I believe about the 400 years, because I know for a fact that I told people not to specifically expect anything. And he's trying to paint the picture that I did because Teo said what they said. And a lot of what he says Teo said was taken out of context anyway.
Okay, go ahead. I'm looking. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the I'm looking at the screens right now. Somebody said muddy water. Do you have, what is he saying? Held up position. Do you believe the same things? I don't know why he kept bringing Teo up. Do you believe the same thing? Do y'all basically have the same belief when it comes to the 400 years? That part.
Teo's belief differs from mine. I'll let them explain their own belief and speak for themselves. Me, I didn't expect to see certain things right away. For example, I didn't think we would go on lockdown immediately. I do believe that we would go on lockdown eventually. Now, this wasn't something that just came out of this. This was actually something talked about among the fringe white Christians when I was still dealing with L.A. Marzulli, Steve Quayle, and those guys, because they were preppers. They always believed that a lockdown and martial law was coming to America. So the prepper thing comes way before this from white Christians. That's how I got into prepping. And so the lockdown coming, I never said, hey, this lockdown is coming. I never predicted anything specific. I was always, look, this is what I believe happens. This is why we're under a curse, because our ancestors disobeyed God, and he said he was going to send people into slavery. But there's also verses in the Bible where God tells them to remember Egypt. Why does he tell them to remember Egypt if it's never going to be a point again? Someone on the last, I think your last show said that Jesus didn't teach another captivity or something to that effect. Paraphrasing.
Yes.
But if you look at the Mount of Olives,
it might have been Yolanda. Shout out to Yolanda. It might have been her. Yeah.
So if you go to the Olivet Discourse and you read, what does Christ say? He says, they will lead you captive into all nations. Will lead, not have led, but will lead you captive. That means it's a future event where Israel has to be led captive. That's in slavery into all nations. So we can just look at who the people are and see if the curse applies. Who, since the time of Christ, has been led captive into all nations? And so far, everybody I've asked said, look, the transatlantic slave trade is the only thing like it in which people were led as slaves into all the nations on earth. And yet they say we make this stuff up, or we're sounding crazy when we look at it. And then we have the verses after they came out of Egypt. The context is important in Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. When they came out of Egypt, he says, I will send you into Egypt again with ships. They walked out of Egypt. You didn't need Egypt. You didn't need ships to get to Egypt. They walked in and out of Egypt all the time. So some people believe that's a spiritual Egypt, just like Babylon and the daughter of Babylon, which, by the way, if people want to Google this idea that America is Mystery Babylon or the daughter of Babylon, is not original to Israelites.
No.
I first heard that among white Christians.
Right, yeah, amen.
Yeah, and a lot of them hold that view. Well, the Bible tells us that the daughter of Babylon, that the daughter of Israel is living among the daughter of Babylon. As a matter of fact, I'll pull that Bible verse up right now and read it word for word.
So you believe specifically that certain things can be established from the Bible alone?
Yeah, I believe so, because we're told that the Old Testament is basically a foreshadow of Christ. The volume of the book speaks of Christ. So if the volume of the book is speaking about possible future events, we can talk about what's called dual fulfillment, or prophecies that point to bigger events in the future, or prophecies that we can use to say, look, it happened like this in the past, so it's very likely that it will happen like this again in the future. It's not about predicting, it's about comparing. And I think there's a huge difference between predicting and comparing. Now, in Zechariah chapter 2, verse 7, It says, "Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon." Now, if all these white preachers are out here teaching that the daughter of Babylon and Mystery Babylon is America, why is the Bible telling Zion or Israel to deliver themselves from that place? And how did they get to that place? See, and these are the questions that we're not allowed to ask in church. Not allowed to question the.
You walk in and you sound like you're away from the. Oh, you on the cell phone? You said.
No, I got it. Somebody tried to call in while I was talking.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, if Israel is living with the daughter of Babylon, it's important that we understand who the daughter of Babylon is in the end times. It's important that we understand who Israel is in the end times, so that we know who these prophecies apply to.
Yeah. Amen.
So that's a lot of what I built up time talking on in my book, The Black Hebrew Awakening, the final 400 years of slaves in America. Now, I spent the first 7 chapters talking about the history and how it applies to those of us that were scattered by the transatlantic slave trade. Now, Vocab claims that the book says, it says very little about the 400-year prophecy, but that's not true. Chapters 8 through 15 actually talk about the 400-year prophecy. Now, for Vocab to say very little of the book has to do with that is not true, because exactly 53.33%, I used a percentage calculator, 53.33% of the book is about the 400-year prophecy that Vocab claims he read and then came on and said he had to go on a scavenger hunt to find my beliefs about. He says he read this article, but he also said he had to go on a scavenger hunt to find my beliefs, where I just read to you very clearly, and all these are bullet pointed in the article. They're bullet pointed in my book, where I lay out, this is what I believe, and this is what you should expect, and this is what you should not expect. He says he had to go on a scavenger hunt for this, and I don't get how he had to scavenger hunt for something that's laid out in front of him, bullet pointed, and he read it.
Got you. Hold on, let me see. I'm trying to say, I'm not sure if this comment has anything to do with that. But keep going. What else troubled you with the whole debate?
There was a lot of, during the debate and after the debate, like such as him asking me the math questions that had nothing to do with my belief, as if that would somehow catch me up into something. As I said, 21 seconds, 21 days, or 21 months, we just don't know. And I was very clear over and over again that I don't know. And in the article, I said I don't know, because I wasn't predicting anything. And that to me was, it made him look dishonest for the people who already were familiar with the information that I put out. They immediately recognized his lies and dishonesty. But for the people that were not familiar, he may have convinced them. And so what Vocab tries to do is, when he can't refute information, he tries to demonize people, such as we are seeing the UA community do. They try to demonize you. They're trying to demonize Brother Tanzamore, and now they're trying to demonize Sister Neffy. This is what they do when they can't beat you. They demonize you so that anybody else that deals with you, you have that stigma on you now, and they basically try to ruin your reputation. And so that's what Vocab is trying to do with me and Teo. I'll give you another example. When he did the follow-up and talking about Teo, he compared them to Harold Camping and David Koresh. Why did he bring up Harold Camping and David Koresh? Now, Harold Camping, he claims, okay, I brought him up because he's a false prophet. Let's assume that's true. But why bring up David Koresh? When David Koresh had a shootout, he had an armed militia.
Burned up the building, everything.
Right, the whole nine, and he compares them with a group that was considered terrorists by the government.
Well, James, like, that's a good slick tactic that people do, because a lot of people can't know and compare some stuff. So when James White say slick little stuff like how the Hebrew Israelites are like or worse than the KKK, and that is so crazy, but this is what it is.
Yeah, they do that, and they've been doing that, and I'm not sure how he could say that Israelites in any way, shape, or form are worse than the KKK. But you'll find that if you really listen to a lot of people that don't look like us talk, often they'll equate us saying something harsh to the harshest possible thing another group of white people do. So, for example,
come on, make it plain.
They will say the camp. Okay, cool. Let's say the camps on the corner, for instance. They will show the camps on the corner cussing out white people and saying all kind of crazy stuff to white people.
Up a church and killing children.
Right. They put those on the same level, or lynching somebody, or raping somebody's wife, or putting people into slavery, or taking their kids away and shipping them across the world. They equate these things that we do, or that they do, to yelling. and talking harshly.
And just talk. And talk ain't never killed nobody. Talk is just talk.
Right. Talk is just talk. And they don't see it that way, though. If black people are talking, they need to insert themselves into it. If black people are talking, they forbid us gathering in groups of a certain size. They don't want us doing too much talking. And if we do talk enough, they will try to demonize that talk. For example, during the debate, another thing that was a problem, Vocab made the claim that he does not go after Christians. Matter of fact, I wrote down the exact quote because I wanted to read it. He said, "My main goal is not to attack Christians, no matter how wrong they are. My main goal is to deal with you and false teachers like you." Now, he didn't say what I was teaching falsely. He failed to make his point that I was teaching the 400 years falsely, because if Vocab is taking the position that he disagrees with my teaching on the 400 years, when I said we do not know the exact day when the lines open up again, so it's important that we start praying and keep praying. If Vocab is saying he doesn't agree with my position, he has to then take the position that he does know the exact day, because I said we don't know the exact day. I said we don't know how many people we need to awaken. If Vocab is saying he believes the opposite, then he has to say we do know when people awaken. So Vocab didn't even think this through. He just challenged me to a debate, and I think he got in over his head, not knowing what I really believe. And then he came out the gate hoping he could make a point and hoping he could make a connection, and then ultimately end up reading the stuff that proves everything he said to be false.
All right,
that's what mostly bothered me.
Thank you. We appreciate you in the super chat. Look at Jonathan. I'm not sure if you know Jonathan, and this is one of your trolls, or this is well, I know you said the other guy. You said you knew him from another group. Let's be fair. You're looking to make Vocab some Yankee Doodle white guy, and that's wrong.
Well, let's talk about.
You're the equivalent in the Christian apologetic world, in the Christian world. You're the equivalent of Vocab. You think you're just trying to make, like Vocab, somebody else said, you're trying to make it about race, and Vocab is just giving you Bible, and you're not in the Bible.
Vocab isn't just giving us Bible, though. We know that to be fact. We talked about the Slavery in the USA song. That ain't Bible. The Slavery in the USA song, I'm not making that up. He made that up. Jay, the producer, apologized for it. Now, you have a black brother who saw something wrong with his actions, apologized, and Vocab sat there like, oh, it ain't nothing wrong with what I did. So now we have to ask ourselves, is Jay, the producer, wrong for apologizing, or is Vocab wrong for not apologizing? That's just one example.
Jay touched, I can't lie, Jay touched my heart. He had me even thinking, I'm like, oh man, we do have to, and that's the right attitude to have. Shout out to Pastor Isaiah, and I think he had some stuff in the comment too. I seen him, and we had a little bit of beef back a couple of years back, and he wanted to even do things right. He hit me on the phone, and I tell y'all, I'm ignorant. And and that whole thing just brought something when Jay came, and he came out there and he was like, I cringe even when people replay the video. That touched me. I said like this, and this is what it's about. It's about forgiveness. We make mistakes. We pick up, we keep it going, and, acknowledge our mistakes. Acknowledge our mistakes, because I got some stuff I got to acknowledge our mistakes, and then, and we can move on. And Jay did do that. And
and to me,
a lot of people hit me and said, well, Vocab could at least have said, well, because the Bible says if you think you have offended a brother, and they feel like, I said some cockiness from Vocab. He didn't, even if he think he offended anybody, he didn't care because we're not considered Christians in their eyes, and, stuff, and, some stuff like that. And a lot of people say some stuff like that.
No, but here's the thing with Vocab. I equate Vocab to that white guy that thinks he can say the N-word around black people, because I feel like this. If you're calling people coons on video, if you're calling black people coons in your video for whatever reason, and you feel comfortable enough to say that in front of a camera and then edit it and then upload it to the internet for a lot of black people to see, you are likely calling black people the N-word behind closed doors. Any of my white friends that I have, never once have I ever heard the word coon or the N-word come out of their mouth in my presence, let alone upload it to a video. So I'm not making that up about Vocab. Now, let me just give you another situation. The pre-debate show, when we all got on there, it was me, you, Muhammad Tanzamore, Vocab, and we're all talking. He called into that show because Muhammad Tanzamore said that Eric Mason was taking white Jewish money. And in the midst of that, he said Eric Mason didn't know he was calling. So I immediately was thinking, I stayed out of it, though, because that was between him and Muhammad and Eric Mason. I was immediately thinking, how are you going to call on behalf of Eric Mason to check Muhammad about something he said about a man who lives in Philadelphia, and Vocab lives in Arizona and doesn't even go to Eric Mason's church? So why, again, is Vocab inserting himself into that black business without Eric Mason's knowledge, if what Vocab says is true? So vocab continues to drive a wedge. So you see the reason that Israelites and a lot of apologists haven't talked is because vocab is driving that wedge. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but Sister Nephi just thanked the Hebrews
Yes, yes,
Israelites
yes, yeah.
for
You
praying
gotta
for her.
talk over that. Yeah, I seen that. Yeah,
Right
but all the
now,
yeah,
exactly. So we ride with you. You didn't came away from the urban apologists. We riding with you. Muhammad
yeah,
Tanzimore comes away from there. We
yeah,
embrace
yeah.
him. Sister Nephi comes from there. We pray for her and embrace her. Eric Mason starts going at it, or Jeff Durbin and them start going at Eric Mason. We stand up for Eric Mason.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. Now, anybody got a problem with that right there? I be a witness with that right there. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, so the thing is he's trying to demonize us. And so he doesn't have a problem with what he does. He doesn't see anything wrong with what he did, that Slavery in the USA song. He doesn't see anything wrong with calling us coons for white Christian entertainment. And if you look at it, basically what he's doing is putting on blackface. He may not have a shoe polish like back in the day, but back in the day, what did they do? They imitated us. They would put on the shoe polish and imitate what their perception of us was. And Vocab is doing the same thing. He admitted to it. He was impersonating a black person when he did that skit calling us coons. That's basically blackface, but without the shoe polish. So why is it okay for Vocab to keep doing these things? And we have these black urban apologists, these black Christians that'll defend it and then demonize their own people without fact checking Vocab. So vocab is a problem right now. If you look at everything going on, the reason there's a rift between black apologists and black Israelites is because of vocab. The fact is, we rock with a lot of y'all. You, Brother Muhammad, Sister Nephi, we've been rocking with y'all. And before that, we weren't rocking with Nephi because she was still associated with vocab. We weren't rocking with these people because they were associated with vocab. The whole thing with Jeff Durbin, Eric Mason, who's the link there? Vocab. He knows all those sides right there. Everything that's going on right now is vocab in the middle of it, and everybody needs to see that. It's vocab.
Because vocab European?
Say that one more time.
Do you think vocab is just more popular among urban apologists because he's European?
Let's talk facts. I did a video a while back. I want to say a month or two, maybe a couple months ago. And I talked about vocab statistics and his numbers and how it looks like his numbers are high, but something doesn't add up. So the other day, vocab did a premiere, right? Vocab has 25,000 plus subscribers. He had 42 people in the live. Then I look at Sister E's subscribers. She's a little under 3,000. And Sister E has almost quadruple, almost 4 times as many in her live. I pointed out that Vocab's numbers on his channel don't seem to match the subscriber numbers. I think Vocab is giving the illusion of popularity. And because he's hitting so many channels, it makes him seem like he's more popular than he is. But if you go look on his channel, go look at the least viewed videos. Like if you look at mine, I have 15,000, just over 15,000 subscribers. So Vocab has 10,000 more subscribers than me. The least viewed video on my channel is over 1,000 views. But if you go look at Vocab's videos, they're in the hundreds. And I'm talking about recent videos. They're in the hundreds, not in the thousands. Something is not adding up. How do you have 25,000 people, but you can't get more than 45 people in your live at a time?
And a lot of people don't look at that. All right, interesting point. That is something to look at. Thank you, souls of our ancestors in the super chat. Berea, vocab is shady, whether you admit it or not. Vocab is divisive and has no desire to bring unity. Now, the crazy thing is all of the apologists are saying if we start dealing with shadiness comes from Israelites. If we start dealing with not only shadiness, aggression. Y'all heard Mike Houser said they the ones not I keep saying Mike Holloway. He said they the ones that's aggressive. They the ones pushing the Sabbath on us. They the ones trying to push the fringes on us. They're the ones that's more aggressive, and that's the problem. Come on, brother, you got the floor.
Now, see, that again is an example of what I mean about black Christians who refuse to check white Christians. They say we're aggressive, but let's go back to the Inquisition. Who started the Inquisition? The Christians. Then who started the slave trade? People claiming to be Christians. They came over here, the KKK. What were they doing? KKK was claiming to be Christians, and they were attacking black people and demonizing black people. And now we have white supremacists and the Proud Boys and all these people who claim to be Christians and they're white supremacists. And yet they say because we're yelling that we're the problem, or we are mad at what they did. Now, this is important too, because people say Israelites are racist. Now, there's a difference between hating somebody. I'm not even getting to the technicalities of the word because I know some people are very technical about it, about what racism means. I'm talking about the colloquialism, how we use it in the slang terminology. When somebody hates somebody because of their skin color, That is much different than you taking a people, erasing their language, their history, their religion, and continuing to oppress them, writing laws that put them in prison, splitting up our families, causing division in our communities, giving us lack of resources, which makes us fight and kill each other over it. And we look at your actions and say, you know what, we'd rather not deal with those people. That's not the same as hating somebody for the color of their skin. And yet they call us racist and aggressive. And my problem is with a lot of these black Christians that refuse to check it. They call it banging on the Christianity to point out Christianity's actual past and present.
That's kind of BJ. That's kind of the problem that they had. Like I said, if I'm a move as an apologist, I can't bring out the crimes of Christianity. So when I said I wanted to tell the whole truth, I know that I had to back away from the title of being an urban apologist, because we don't want to admit, Pastor Johnson, that Christianity got a record. We don't want to admit that a lot of people that call themselves Christians was raping the slaves, doing what they want to do, and going to church and praying. But I can't tell y'all I'm mad. I want to shoot that dude. I'm going to shoot that dude, and I'm going to go to church and pray. Lord, I don't want to get caught. I ain't going to do it no more. But I ain't going to be out here shooting no Christians. My behavior got to change. But a lot of those people, their behaviors didn't change, and they stayed calling themselves Christians. Hotep, Garfield, we love you, bro. We appreciate you. Come on, Dante. You got the floor, Minister.
Yeah, and I don't like the fact that a lot of Christians leave out context. I don't like the fact that they think their liberty allows them to lie or stretch the truth or omit facts or any of that stuff. That to me is a problem. And I feel like a lot of Christians use their liberty in Christ to make excuses for the bad that they do. It comes down to one or two things. Either Vocab is lying or he's telling the truth. He told you guys he read that article, and I pointed out to you guys in the article that I say things that are opposite of what he was trying to portray. So you either have to come to a point where you're going to stop making excuses and tell the truth, or you're going to say, look, I'm running with this lie. And I see a lot of Christians that want to run with the lie, which is why I stepped away from the church. When our pastor started teaching, for example, I'll use this. I had a black pastor. I won't give his name out, but there was a black pastor who went to his church. He started teaching that angels were sexless and hermaphrodites. He would say these things in the same sense. A hermaphrodite has both genitalia, and sexless has no genitalia. So how are you saying angels are sexless hermaphrodites and everybody in the church is just co-signing this? And then when I asked him about it, he didn't want to answer it. He wanted to change the subject, or he says I'm being disruptive or something. Like, wait, how am I being disruptive for asking the logical question? And too often when somebody in the Christian community says something, somebody that's in the leadership position or a position that they look to, they don't want to question that person, or they want to make excuses. And if we're talking about truth here, we should leave the excuses on the table and say, look, let's just deal with the facts. Either this person is telling the truth or they're not. And my problem has been with the Christian church in general and Vocab Malone in particular. The truth is not being told. There's a lot of lies being told, and there's a lot of division being caused between black people who would otherwise get along. When I go to the church down the street just to talk to them or see them, I get invited down there for different things. They don't have no problem with me. We talk, we converse, there's no disrespect, and we talk among each other. There's some Muslim brothers that I know down at the mosque down the street. I talk to these brothers. We talk all the time to all kind of people. The Israelites are down here at the corner on Martin Luther King, down the street from my house. I was just talking to them brothers out there the other day. They were at camp and they were on the corner. I'm not going to, say their name, but they were at camp down there. So I talked to a lot of brothers in the community, because a lot of people don't know. I grew up in the hood and I still live in the hood. So I know a lot of these people around here. And as you said, respect goes a long way. You can't just get out on the streets disrespecting people. So while Vocab is sitting here telling people to be a man and they're a coward, all this, he just admitted he wouldn't even debate Ron Dalton face to face. And we know why that is. He doesn't want to get in that room with all them brews after he done called us coons and everything else. And he's sitting up in that room and he gonna start feeling naked. He got to put up another GoFundMe for his security again.
Now, part of the problem is, see, that some people say we can't see this thing clearly. I'm gonna say we. Because I admit Christians don't want to admit certain things. Christians don't want to say certain things. Apologists don't want to say certain things. But one of the things that keep coming up, they said Dante, another email said that Dante and Teo, and I hate to bring the brothers up, and I have them on. They could jump on anytime. They're false prophets, but the thing that's fueling the movement, the thing that's fueling this message, and y'all don't want to be considered camps, but y'all are false prophets and y'all are false teachers. But because so much people think it's a black-white thing, there's more and more people exiting the church and giving y'all ear, and they're not fact-checking certain things. They're not fact-checking prophecy. They're not fact-checking the way scriptures are being quoted. They just tired of European Christianity, white folk, and they think it's a black-white thing, so they feel y'all are quoting Bible and y'all are preaching the truth. What would you say to those charges?
Look, here's the thing. People want to pretend like it's hard to figure out what's going on in the Bible. It's not. We have geography. So even if you take race out of it, let's just look at the geography. We can look at and say, okay, Egypt is located in Africa. Cush is located in Africa. If Cush is the son of Ham, Nimrod was a black man. Nimrod was a Hamite. They've been giving us this Hamites were black, Hamites were black, Hamites were black.
Yes.
Now, when you start reading in that Bible, you find out Jezebel was a Hamite. You find out there's a bunch of people that's Hamites in the Bible that Israelites were mixing with and having sons and daughters with. And if you get to the Moabites come from Lot. So they're not Israelites, they're Hebrews, but they're not from Israel. Now, when you start digging into the history, if you say, okay, let's set aside the Bible, let's look at the geography, let's look at the history, let's look at the explorers. So what universities do, they have a standard where they look at everything. They say, let's look at all the history. Let's see what these explorers wrote. Let's see what these geographers are talking about. Let's see what these biologists are talking about. And they do their research, right? So I'll give you one example. Sir Harry Hamilton Johnson, Harry H. Johnson, is a British explorer. He's decorated. I'm reading from the Encyclopedia Britannica. If you guys want to look him up, Sir Harry H. Johnston, Johnston. He was born June 12, 1858 in London, England. Now, this dude is a racist, a super racist. He believed in human zoos. He believed black people were inferior, the whole nine. Now, it says he was a British explorer, botanist, zoologist, artist, pioneer, colonial administrator, widely traveled in Africa and speaking many African languages. He was closely involved in what has been called the scramble for Africa by 19th century colonial powers. Look that up if you guys don't know what the scramble for Africa is. Now, this is what he said in his book, The Negro in the New World. I'm not making this up. This dude is not black. He's a white guy. He says the following. The Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and to have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. So he says the Elamites are a Negroid people. Who does Elam come from? Genesis 10:22. The children of Shem, Elam and Asher and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. So you have this racist white guy who believes we're inferior saying that the Jews are Negroes. That's just one example. Another example. If you go to Sepharia, SEFARIA.org, and you look up Pirkei, Pirkei, Derabai, Derabbi, Eliezer, Eliezer, chapter 24, it says the following. This website is actually it's a library of Ashkenazi Jewish written material. Over here, it says Nimrod in the Tower of Babel says Noah brought his sons and grandsons, and he blessed them with their several settlements, and he gave them inheritance in all the earth. He especially blessed Shem and his sons, making them dark but comely. Isn't that similar to what we read in the Bible? I am dark but lovely.
Yes.
So, and then he says, and he gave them the habitable earth. He blessed Ham and his sons, making them dark like the raven, and he gave them an inheritance, the coast of the sea. He blessed Japheth and his sons, making them entirely white, and he gave them as an inheritance the deserts and fields. So this is an Ashkenazi Jewish source saying Shem is black, Ham is black, but Japheth is white. We're not making this stuff up. I can show you tons of sources from Europeans. In fact, I just did a video. There's an hour and 44 minutes called Undeniable Evidence that the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and Simeon were black, in which I show over and over and over again Europeans saying the Israelites are black. So how is it that we get blamed for making it a black-white thing when the sources we're pulling from are European sources?
Got you. I got you. I'm trying to look at these comments right here and try to remember some of this other stuff. I see my phone going off. Would you sit down with Vocab again? And if so, on what subject? Because of course, a lot of people, you got to leave Vocab alone. You hear, hey, yo, DJ, they said get Vocab off our channel. What would you sit down with him again? With what subject? Under what circumstance, sir?
There's no real reason to sit down with Vocab again. The whole reason I even sat down with Vocab in the first place is because he talked himself into that corner. And Vocab isn't an Israelite. I didn't sit down or debate vocab to prove that anything to vocab. In fact, my goal is to reach our people. And I've always been very clear about that. My goal is to reach our people. So I knew a lot of his people would tune in and listen. My goal was never to convince vocab of anything. Vocab ain't our people. He has no say in our community, no matter how much he raps or uses the word coon or anything else he does. He's not one of us. So I don't care to discuss anything with vocab from this point on.
Okay. Anything else in close you want to address concerning the prophecy, concerning the material that you have out there?
Understand this for everybody listening. I never said anything specific was going to happen, but we have to look at what is going on. Is the world still the same place since the end of 2019? They say COVID may have been here right before the end of 2019. And so now we're on lockdown. Vocab mentioned the prisoners getting released from prison. That is actually a prophecy. Prisoners getting let out of prison. It doesn't say to what degree. There are lots of things going on right now that the world is not the same. The world is never going to be the same again. We're never going back to the way it was before, even though some people might think we are. There's being a push towards a cashless society. Many people don't know. I think it was yesterday or the day before, PayPal announced that they're now going to be accepting cryptocurrency at 26 million stores. So cashless is being pushed. We have fires everywhere. Benaya Israel, shout out to him. California is on fire. That's a brother you definitely should talk to, Brother Berean, if you want to bring out some evidence. Is Benaya Israel.
Okay. Yeah, I think they mentioned it before. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are wildfires everywhere. I mentioned before, other people have mentioned, the locust plagues are threatening to bring famine to 25% of the world's nations while we're in the middle of lockdown. Unemployment is through the roof all over the country and in all other parts of the world as well. We see all kind of stuff. There were monkey swarms. I remember when the pandemic first started and the lockdowns happened, they showed a monkey swarm, which I've never seen before, just going through these cities, looting and tearing up stuff. And then there was all kind of other animals and bees and the murder hornets. And it was just one thing after the other. And then old people are dying and young people are dying. And there's bodies in the streets and there's refrigerator units trying to hold the bodies. And we're seeing all this stuff happening at the same time during an awakening of people. Now, Vocab admitted this. He said there's going to be an awakening of ethnic Israel in the end times, and yet for some reason he doesn't believe it's us. He says that there are black Israelites. He admitted to that when you asked him directly. He said yes, but he didn't go into it. He mentioned the Limba by name, and yet we see a video of him bashing Pastor Kelly Richardson, who we know has his DNA test and he has Limba. Sister E, who has Limba. So he's over here telling us he said we appropriated an identity, and yet over and over and over again, we see that it's not very likely that we appropriated the identity. It's the other people that appropriated the identity. So it's important to pay attention to what's going on in the world. It's important to pay attention to all the circumstances, such as reparations. Now, if it's coincidence that this 400 years is up and now reparations is being talked about in Africa, saying we can get citizenship and land and we can come back home and all this other stuff that happened, the Bible says that we would be returned to the place where we were taken from. It says that. Matter of fact, I want to read that verse and then I'm gonna end on that.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I want to read it word for word because I don't want anybody to say I was paraphrasing. Give me a second here. Let me pull up my. Matter of fact, I think this is in the article. I want to read it directly from there. The final Juneteenth. All right here, Jeremiah 29, 12 through 14. This is in the article that Vocab says he's read. And the reason I'm reading it from this is because there are, actually there's four of them. I'm going to read the first, I'm going to read them in order and then I'll read the Jeremiah. So there's an instruction set in the Bible of how to call back God. We talk about the return of Christ and the second coming. Chuck Missler, years ago, I heard him say that the return of Christ depended on the Israelite nation or Jewish nation waking up, admitting their mistakes and calling back the Most High. Chuck Missler, for those that don't know, is a white Christian, evangelical Christian. Yes, he said this.
Chuck, yes.
And he also stated that he didn't see how that would happen given the current state of Israel and the stuff they were into spiritually. And now we see a group of people claiming to be Israel. We're awakening, saying we believe in the Messiah and we fully intend to call him back, and yet they don't see it. So number one verse I gave was Leviticus 26:40 through 42. Now this is after the Exodus. If you're looking at chronology, Leviticus was written after they left Egypt. He says, if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass, which they trespassed against me, and that also have walked contrary to me, and that I also have walked contrary to them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then I will remember with my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and my covenant with Abraham, I will remember, and I will remember the land. Now, I'm not saying this applies exactly to the 400 years, but I was giving examples of when Israel went into slavery, and God says, look, if you do these things, then this is what I will do. So now, number two, he says, if thou shalt say in thine heart, these nations are more than I, how can I dispossess them? Thou shalt not be afraid of them, but shall well remember that what the Lord did unto Pharaoh. Why is he telling us to remember what he did unto Pharaoh? That's supposed to be a marker or a sign, because he destroyed Pharaoh and his people. He said, and unto all of Egypt, the great temptations which thine eyes saw, and the signs and wonders, and the mighty hand, and the stretched out arm, whereby the Lord of thy God brought thee out, so shall the Lord thy God do unto all the people of whom thou art afraid. These are promises he's given to Israel. So if we're Israel, those promises still apply. Number three, this is 1 Chronicles 16:35. And say ye, save us, O God of our salvation, and gather us together, and deliver us from the heathen, that we may give thanks to thy holy name and glory in thy praise. So again, if Israel cries out, says, save us. But now the most important, Jeremiah 29:12 through 14 says, then shall ye call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And ye shall seek me and find me, when ye shall search for me with all your heart, and I will be found of you, saith the Lord. Now this is important. And I will turn away your captivity or slavery, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places where I've driven you, saith the Lord, and I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. This is important because if you study the history, you find that the majority of slaves were taken from the kingdom of Judah, which is now the kingdom of Benin, which was formerly the kingdom of Dahomey. You find the historical texts that say Israelites were on both sides of the Niger River. You have historical texts that say Israelites were living in the kingdom of Dahomey, which is now Benin, which is formerly the kingdom of Judah. So all this stuff ties together, and it mentions he will turn away their captivity and gather them from all the nations. This is not slavery in Egypt. This is after the slavery in Egypt, talking about a future slavery where they were taken captive into all nations. So I'm not sure how Vocab or anybody else can sit there and say beyond a shadow of a doubt, we aren't the people, when they can't tell us another slavery in history in which people went into slavery into all nations other than the transatlantic slave trade. So my point here is question everything. Fact check everybody, including me. My website has links to the sources. You don't have to go dig them up. You don't have to Google them. The link is right there. You can click it and read the whole source for yourself. You can fact check what Vocab Malone said. Go to the article. The final Juneteenth, all descendants of the transatlantic slave trade need to read this. You will see for yourself all the stuff that Vocab intentionally left out. And we have to say it's intentional because he did say himself that he read the entire article for himself.
Okay, got you. What's up? Nothing. What's going on, Elder? Hit the like button, she said. All right, brother. Anything in closing? I gotta run. I'm getting out of here. I'm gonna slide and try to take care of this other business before I go back out of town, before I go back up top.
Y'all just
you. Go ahead. Give the information.
I was gonna tell everybody, check out my channel, Dante Fortson, DanteFortson. Check out the channel. Go check out the links. I usually put the links in the description of the video, the source links, so you can check them out for yourself. And if they're not in there, I usually have a link to BlackHistoryInTheBible.com because YouTube does have a character limit. So sometimes I can't fit all the links on that. So what I will do is put them on a separate page on my website, and you can still go there and click all of those links for yourself. Subscribe. And I do have a study coming out in the next few days about the line of Shem. I did show you guys some of that today with the Ashkenazi Jewish source. I have a bunch of those sources. Vocab mentioned the 13th tribe being debunked. We don't even need the 13th tribe to put together the fact that the Ashkenazi Jews converted around 740 AD to Judaism. Right. And we don't even need Arthur Kessler for that. We can use other people. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. So make sure you subscribe.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. Y'all want to get in touch with me, BereanTeach@gmail.com. On the Cash App, it's $Berean Teach. We appreciate y'all. Y'all love support. All right, Minister. We'll take care. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Brother Berean.